here with a special guest. Her name is Faye, the Most Gracious, and we're going to talk about the Joker. So, the Joker, like, I
I
want,
mean, I'm ready. My hair is green, so
yeah, it's
I'm
actually
ready.
perfect for the Joker, So, like, I'm kind of like before we talk about the Joker, I'm just kind of curious about the cinema experience in United Kingdom because usually, like, the tickets in the United States are like super expensive here. Like, it's usually costs like $11 to buy a single ticket here, and then also like for the popcorn and stuff. Don't get me started on the popcorn and stuff.
Okay.
But like also like the only time we can actually get like the cheap tickets for United States is like Tuesday, like at the AMC theater, they have
Yeah.
like $5 tickets for like the movies. And so sometimes just go on Tuesdays to buy like the tickets. So how much do the tickets cost in United Kingdom?
Okay. So in the United Kingdom it might vary, but in London it varies depending on how close you are to the city centre. So if you're in like central London, it's going to cost you like £50. But $11, that's like what? That's right now that's probably like I want to say like £8 ish.
Okay.
That's not a lot for a movie. Um, that's not a lot for a movie. I think typically, if we're saying like general London, it would be about £22. We went to a cinema that we frequent all the time because the tickets there are super cheap. They're like £6.
Okay.
So and we get snacks from outside. We just take a massive bag in and we just start snacking. We don't bother buying things from the cinema because we know we're gonna get robbed.
Yeah,
Um,
like I know for a fact, like if you were trying to sneak a snack inside of our movie theater, like they probably would kick you out or something, so they have to do it like in a purse or something to get like the snacks
well,
inside.
this cinema is so low key. Like my friend literally took her purse out of her bag. The guy saw that there was just like a big bag of popcorn in there, and he just did not do anything. But we saw the movie for super cheap because we know which cinema to go to.
Was
But it
what
was you
was it
guys
really?
call it a movie theater, don't you?
Yeah, we
You
call
don't
it
call
like
it.
we call it movies theater or like the movies or just theater,
We call it the cinema.
the cinema.
Yeah,
And then you also call like the movies films.
we say both, but
Okay, film.
films are
Yeah, okay.
generally used. Yeah.
So was the auditorium really packed when you were there?
So, so my friend who had come with me, she had seen it twice already in the cinema. This was her third time seeing the movie in the movie theater. And she said that every time they played the Joker, for some reason, like the camera always fucked up. And she'd been to a couple of other different cinemas as well. So we don't know what was going on with that, but we like skipped the ads essentially because it took so long to start the movie. Um, so we skipped the ads and we jumped straight into the film. But the auditorium was quite small, and we went at 10 a.m. Like we went really early to see this movie. And every other time that I've been to the cinema, while like in the morning, it's always been empty, which is why I love going. Either going like super early or super late, the cinema's just empty. But this time, all the seats were full. All of the seats, like everyone was ready to watch this film.
You're kind
Um,
of lucky not to see the advertisements because, like, every time I go to the movie theater, like, it's just at least 20 minutes are just trailers
yeah.
of the upcoming movie. It's like, holy crap, dude, I want to just see the movie. I don't want to see this other kind of crap. But as far as
Well,
yeah, as far
for
as
us,
oh, I'm sorry, you can go
for
ahead.
us, it's ads, like it's general, like TV commercial ads, and then it's trailers, and then it's the movie. So we skipped all of that because the camera took so long to start.
Wow. So it's like the TV ads plus this trailer. Oh my.
Yeah.
I like in my experiences, like here we had just like the trailers, then the movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
But to have the ads, then the trailers, and the movie? Oh no. No, no, no.
It's stupid. It's so stupid.
Oh my goodness. But as far as my experience is concerned, like it was actually really packed too when I was there, I think last week on a Friday. It was like the day after the premiere.
Yeah.
So prior to the
Well,
Joker, have you seen like the other Batman movies?
my friend has I've tried to explain this to people because I think it's a really difficult concept to grasp. all of my pop culture references, so like celebrities, TV, music, like all of that stuff. I have a huge gap while I was religious. So like from 2007 to about 2017, I have not seen, heard anything. So all of my pop culture references are like pre 2007 and like after 2017. So I have not
Wow.
seen anything in that gap. And I like literally had to cram all of the Marvel movies this year. This year. I had to
Really?
cram them all. I watched all of the Harry Potter movies this year. I have not
Wow.
seen any of them. I think I saw like the first one when I was really young, but I hadn't seen any of them past that. So I had to rewatch the first one and then all the other Harry. And I feel like Harry Potter has like a time limit on age because I did not feel like the magic that everyone else feels with Harry Potter.
Yeah, like
Like
when
I
I
felt it when I read the books. I read all the books because that was more available than watching a movie. So I read all the books and I felt the magic and I got it. But like when I saw it on screen, all I could think was like, this is really stupid. Like I don't understand like the hype around the movie. I get the
The
book, but
thing
I don't.
about Harry Potter is that you have to actually watch it as a kid to understand the
Yeah,
kind of magic. Like for my case, like for Harry Potter, I grew up like watching it like when I was a kid. I saw like the movies, I read the books. And so
yeah,
when I saw the movies on the big screen after reading the books, I was like super excited because instead of trying to imagine like the universe of Harry Potter, like the Quidditch and the professors and the castles, you can actually visualize it with the
yeah.
movie. And so when I saw it for the first time at this theater with my aunt back in 2001 for the first Harry Potter movie and subsequent sequels, I was really hyped up to see what it looks like on screen.
Yeah.
And so when I was like watching the movies, like basically Harry Potter literally grew up with me because when he was a kid and I was a kid when I saw the first movie. And then by the time the last movie ended, it was like he was an adult or a teenager. I was
And
like,
you were an adult.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It's the same experience for me when Disney puts out like a new Toy Story movie. Like when the new Toy Story movie came out and everyone was losing their fucking minds. I was like, I literally just watched the first movie. Like I don't understand what the
I
fuck
watched
going
like
on.
the first Toy Story when I was like a kid, like in the 90s. That was like
Yeah,
X many years ago.
yeah, I think I did watch it as a kid, but because I had like this huge gap, and Disney was another one that I had to catch up on. I missed so many movies on that time period. Um, it was just like this void. What is that?
Oh my god, that's like an airplane just that was just random.
Okay.
But anyway, like going back to the Joker, like have you seen like the prior movies prior to
So
watch?
I still haven't seen The Dark Knight.
Oh my
I
god.
have I
Oh.
haven't seen The Dark Knight, and there's a good reason for that. It's because I
Okay.
don't trust DC movies. Because I watched all of the Avengers movies, like all of them. Like we're talking 23, 24 different movies. I watched all of them this year. I was like over superhero movies. I was over them. And the reason I watched all of them was my friend said, "We're not going to watch Infinity War and we're not going to watch the other one that came after that. I can't even remember what its name is. Like we're not going to watch those in the cinema if you don't
Endgame. It,
watch
it was it
all of
was
the other
called
movies."
Endgame.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Um, I'm sorry. I thought Endgame wasn't as good as Infinity War. I liked Infinity
I
War way
actually
more.
agree with you. It actually felt much more boring to me.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it felt really silly. I liked Infinity War way more than Endgame. It was way more interesting. But she said we're not going to watch that movie unless you watch all of the Marvel movies. So I binged all of them. And then by that time, she was like, "Oh, you should watch all the DC movies as well." I was like, "No, I'm so over superhero movies. I've like superheroed my life out. Like I can't anymore." And the other thing is with Marvel movies, the reason why I kind of avoided DC, like when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, I used to watch all the DC cartoons. So like Justice League Unlimited, the Batman series, like I used to watch all of them and I loved them. And one of the reasons I didn't want to dive into DC was because they had like watered it down. Like it's not DC. It's very, very like family friendly. Um, and that's not how I envisioned that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
as far as
DC is
like as
very
yeah, like basically
DC is very, very dark as compared to Marvel. Marvel you can make family friendly. pretty easily. But with DC, because the stories are so rich, and because they're so rich, they're often very, very dark. Like Batman as a character, I feel like a lot of kids run around saying that they love Batman, and I don't get that because Batman's entire story is like terribly dark, like disgustingly dark. Um, and I don't understand why he's become like such a mainstream superhero. I get Superman kind of because he's like a very vanilla kind of superhero, but Batman I don't get. So when the Dark Knight trilogy came out, I was like, you know what? I don't want to watch something that I expect to be like really heavy and then just isn't. Um, that was my thought process. And then when my friend was like, "Oh, the Joker's coming out," and I was like, "But is it related to that series?" And she was like, "No," and I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to watch it then." Not. So I didn't watch it, and she's still pushing for it because she's a huge DC. She says she's a huge DC fan, but she was not on my level. Like she didn't watch any of the cartoons. She just was exposed to the movies and some of the comic books. She loves the Joker as a character, so she's into that part of the DC world, but she wasn't into like Justice League. She wasn't into like the Green Lantern comic books. Like that wasn't her thing. It was just more like Gotham City and the villains in Gotham City, which is
It's
cute.
kind of
But
interesting that it's interesting that you mentioned that when you were a kid, you watched like the DC stuff, like the animated stuff when you were a kid.
yeah,
For my case, like I did not grow up on like the DC animated stuff at all. I don't even I'm not familiar with that kind of universe. And
oh,
matter of
it's
fact,
gorgeous.
my exposure to Batman was just the movies and also the
Really,
TV. Yeah, basically I know Batman.
you need to watch the cartoons. Like
Yeah, so
the
for
original Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Teen Titans, like all of those cartoons are amazing. Like I grew up on both like DC and Marvel, so I watched all the X-Men cartoons as well, and I loved that entire world. I used to watch a lot of anime as a kid as well. Like I watched all the stupid animes, like the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the Beyblades and all of that
what
stuff.
about Dragon
I
Ball
spent
Z? What about like Dragon Ball Z?
I loved Dragon. Like, don't get me started on Dragon Ball Z. I need to get back into Dragon Ball Z, but my problem, because I want to watch Dragon Ball Super, but my problem is that I know it's going to be like thousands of episodes long, and I don't have time for that.
I
Um,
think like they ended Dragon Ball Super right now. It's like episode 126. Yeah. Or
126
130.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I never got into Naruto because I feel like that came in when I was a teenager, and I could never got into it because I knew it was going to be one of those animes that just goes on forever. And there's no end to it. Like right now, if I get into an anime, it has to be either finished or it has to be short.
Right. And somebody just said that Bruce Timm universe was the best. I'm not sure about Bruce Timm.
I'm
Never
not
heard
sure
about
what
that
that
guy.
is. I'm not sure what that is.
Same here. But as far as like the animated stuff when I was a kid, I did not grow up on the DC stuff. I grew up on like
Yeah,
the cartoon stuff that were on Cartoon Network or
yeah, you grew
stuff
up on those as
like
well.
Nickelodeon. For
Yeah,
example, Rocko's Modern Life or like the Powerpuff Girls or Kim
yeah. Did you watch?
Impossible.
Did you watch Samurai Jack?
Yeah, I love that show.
Samurai Jack is an amazing show. I love Samurai Jack as a show.
Then it was also
I'm
like
so glad that they brought it back. I still haven't got back into it, but I'm so glad that they brought it back.
yeah, I heard about the news about it being much more darker and edgier than the original actually. Is that
It
true?
was already dark and
I mean,
edgy.
it was already dark and edgy, but like
Yeah.
even more with the blood and stuff, right?
I need to get back into it in that case because I loved that show growing up.
Right. But as far as like my exposure to Batman, it was like the Batman show from 1966 with Adam West. And then it
Yeah,
was also the Batman movie from the 1980s that was directed by Tim Burton. And it also has Jack Nicholson and also Michael Keaton. I think that's the guy's name. Then it was
yeah.
also, I saw some of the movies in the 90s. I saw Batman Returns,
See,
Batman
like
Forever.
I never watched any of the Batman movies. Like none of them. I've never been exposed to Batman in a cinematic universe. I just never watched them. And I'm not sure why that is. I was really really into Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes. My favorite superhero is Wolverine, but he's not like a standalone superhero. He's like part of a crew. But in terms of like a standalone, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero.
Okay,
Um,
somebody says that it
I
was
have
like
the
a
same problem with One Piece. I
Yeah,
had the same
yeah,
problem with One Piece.
yeah. Yeah. But let's see, going back to the movie, like since you don't have much experience with the
Yeah.
Batman stuff, I guess I'm not that great either. What's your thoughts about the movie? Like, do you thought it was good, it was bad, or
So
what's
it kind of reminded me a lot. So like in general,
okay?
the movie as a whole, I felt like a single second wasn't wasted. Like none of the seconds were fillers. All of it was necessary, and I loved that about the movie. It felt very much like Logan. Like it's a standalone movie, like anyone can watch it without any backstory and it still makes sense. I loved Logan. The only reason I didn't like Logan is because again, Wolverine is my favorite superhero, and for those of you who haven't watched it, this is a spoiler. He dies in it, and I was like mourning. Like I knew the guy. Like I mourned him for like 2 weeks. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Like it was such a great movie in that sense because it made you feel connected to this character. Like you felt bad for him, you wanted him to win, like you were rooting for him. And the Joker felt very much like that because it involved very few actors. They were all like really familiar actors as well. Like Joaquin Phoenix, I knew him from Gladiator. Gladiator has to be like my favorite movie of all time. Um, he was the villain in Gladiator, and I loved him in Gladiator because he made you feel like he's a little shit and you hated him. And I feel like actors like that. He was such a little shit in Gladiator, but I love actors like that because they make you feel something.
Right, right.
So I'd seen him in that, so I was like, oh, I'm really excited to see him in this other
There
movie.
was also like
Um,
Robert De Niro as one of the characters in the movie too. He also did a good job as that TV guy, the TV priest.
yeah. So his mother was the mother from How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson's mom, which I thought was perfect because she did really, really good at being a mother in that show. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then they involved the girl from Deadpool as well. So they were like really familiar actors, but there were very, very few of them, which was the same for Logan.
Yeah, basically the
Very few.
performance, like basically the movie was just carried by the back of the guy who played the Joker, because
Yeah,
essentially like the characters besides the Joker serve, I guess, as ways to just I don't know how to say it, like as side characters, maybe.
they are very much side characters, which I really liked as well, because it was solely centered on him. Like all his
Yeah.
mental illnesses were very present as well in the movie. Like all his delusions were present in the movie. It was almost from his perspective, which is what I really really liked. Um, but what I also liked
By
about
the way, do you mind if we talk about the spoiler stuff? Because like I feel as though like it's kind of hard not to talk about the spoilers.
oh, let's talk about the spoilers. Like people knew what they were going to get into.
So
Um, but I felt that what I liked the most was that I didn't need to know the entire DC universe to understand the movie. Like it was a very interesting movie to get into. There was a lot of social commentary as well, which I thought was really interesting.
yeah,
Um,
essentially, like in the beginning of the movie, you could see him trying to go to like this person that tried to help him out with the mental health stuff. And
yeah,
then, like in the movie, like it turns out that that facility was actually closing down, and so he
yeah,
couldn't get any help. And so it
yeah.
kind of make you feel a bit, bad that he's actually not getting any help to actually prevent his mental illness.
And it's also like really relatable because everyone's been in that situation where you're getting help from someone and then it just stops. Like you just can't do that anymore. It's a very relatable feeling and it's very much like it humanizes him. Like I feel like the Joker, because he doesn't have a backstory and because he's in Batman and he's just this cool villain that laughs a lot and is crazy, you kind of dehumanize him to, oh, he's just the shit like villain guy. But that really humanizes him when he feels something, when he can't get help for something that he has.
Right, like I think as far as also the case for like his mom and stuff, like it's also pretty interesting that it also show him as, caring for his mom, but
Yeah, I
also
really liked that. Like that really touched me in a cinematic sense, like him like bathing his mother and taking care of his mother and really wanting to like financially support her. Like that really made me feel bad for the guy.
right, and then also like his dreams to become a comedian, and like by the
Mm.
time he been on like the stage, he was like laughing I guess, nervously or something, or uncontrollably. And then
Yeah,
he just got mocked by the president, like, what was it, the guy, Robert Niro,
yeah.
to do like this stuff. So, and
You just
also,
root
I
for
think it was,
him. Like that first time where he goes on stage and then he's got like his imaginary girlfriend in the crowd and he's like
oh my goodness.
laughing.
Oh, I, I like when I saw that part for the first time at the movie theater, I just could not believe that actually happened. Like I thought all this time she was actually there, but she was not really there. Really?
No, like I was so confused because so in the sequence of the movie, he like kills those three guys and then he goes and makes out with the girl and suddenly she's his girlfriend. And I was like, okay, that makes no sense. Like there was no build up to that. We just assumed that this is the girlfriend now. But then after it was revealed that it was all a delusion, I was like, that makes so much sense. And that is so sad. Like that is so sad that in his brain he had like created like company for himself when he was going through all this difficult stuff. Um, and like that whole scene where he's on stage and he's just trying to do his bit and he just starts laughing uncontrollably inside, like I was like, oh no, he's bombing on stage. And like again, like everyone's been in that situation where they have to like do a presentation or they're in front of a class or what, like it's completely relatable. And you just tank. You're like you make a mistake and everyone's like fucking laughing at you. Like everyone can like humanize that and be like, we feel bad for you, dude. Like we're here, we're rooting for you. Tell your joke.
Yeah, like whenever like you do like those kind of, presentations at school, like you always get like super nervous because there's
Mm,
like so many people just watching you at the same time.
yeah,
Heck, right now I'm kind of nervous like talking in this live stream because there are probably yeah the people watching us. So I can definitely understand that like experience.
yeah. It was just like it was for a lot of the movie. I would say like almost all of the movie. It was just me feeling like this is a very misunderstood character, even though he probably isn't in terms of the DC world. And that's one of the reasons why they've never given him a backstory, is because they want to keep that mystery a mystery. It's meant to be like he's a villain. You're meant to see him as a villain. But when you and a lot of the time, I don't like it when people give characters backstories because I feel like it takes away from the character rather than adding to them, because they make us feel sorry for him and he's a human and you should love him or whatever. Like he has his reasons, he's actually a really good person. Like I feel like a lot of the time that takes away from the character, especially if the
Yeah, like
character is a villain.
sometimes for characters, I feel as though that they don't need backstories because just being mysterious is just cool enough. Like for
Yeah,
example, I don't think that like a person like Boba Fett from Star Wars need a backstory at all.
yeah,
The
I
same
didn't
thing for
like.
like Han Solo too.
Yeah, you don't need a backstory for those people because they already carry their character like on their own
Yeah.
merit. But and that's why I was skeptical about a Joker movie because I was like, they haven't made a canon backstory for him, and they've already admitted that this is not canon. So I was skeptical about it, and then I watched. What did I watch that convinced me to go and see it? I think it was a film theory, by the film theorist, I think it was. And he had done like a film theory just based on the trailer, and he had mentioned a lot of stuff about mental health and like this delusion and how it's comparable to another movie, but I've forgotten what that movie is called.
Taxi Driver or something.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
It's like
Taxi
really,
Driver.
really comparable to Taxi Driver. So I was like, oh, this looks actually like really, really interesting. And then I got those Logan vibes, and I was like, yeah, I want to go see this movie. And I felt, and then like when my friend saw it, and my friend is not a good judge of movie character because she watches all the DC movies, and she's like, oh, she watched Aquaman, and she was like, oh, it was wonderful. And then I had watched it on TV when it came out on TV, and I was like, wow, how the fuck did you think that this was a good movie?
Like as far as like the movies that you missed out for Batman, like the Dark Knight trilogy,
Yeah, I've heard The Dark Knight.
those are also really good movies. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that, just because I like Batman, they're actually
Oh no,
legit.
no. I
Yeah,
think generally speaking, the Dark Knight trilogy does have its own like thing. Like people like
yeah.
the Dark Knight trilogy, but she will go and watch like Superman and be like, "It was great," and I'd be like, "No, no, it wasn't." Like she watched Batman versus Superman, and she was like, "You have to watch this in in the movie
It was
theater,"
terrible.
and I was like, "Okay, I'm pretty sure they like CG'd someone's mustache in that movie." Like I'm not
It was
that
for
sounds like
like
a really
Superman, I think, for the actor for the
yeah.
super. Yeah.
They like CG'd his upper lip or something like that, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch that movie in the cinema. That's a waste of my money.
Yeah, as
But
far as
when
like
she,
as far as the debate about like the CGI versus like practical effect, like I
yeah,
think it kind of varies on movies to movies.
it depends. I don't fall on either side. I think they both have their own thing. Like one of the reasons why Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time is because they made the animatronics, and I find that like really cool for the time. But I also think like CG has its place. Like one of the reasons why I didn't like Jurassic Park 2 is because they overdid the CG, and I didn't like it as much. Um, but it's not called Jurassic Park 2. It's called The Lost World Jurassic Park. It's so stupid. I hated it. Um, but what was I saying? But yeah, when she watched the movie in the movie theater and she was like, "Oh, Joker's amazing," I was like, "Of course you'd say that. You love Joker. Like it could be a pile of garbage, and you would say that it was great. He could have just been smearing black paint on a wall, and you'd be like, yeah, it was great." Um, but one of my closer friends who rarely goes to the movie theater, he was like, "I watched it, and I can tell you, you're gonna love it because it's so you. Like you would love it because it's like dark and grungy, and there's blood everywhere, and that's just your style of movie." And I was like, okay. And then I watched a bunch of like reviews. I watched a bunch of film theories, and for me, this might be blasphemy in and of itself, but I'm not affected by spoilers. Like I hear spoilers all the time, and I think that if you tell me a spoiler and that movie still manages to move me in some way, then that is a good movie.
Okay.
Spoilers do not faze me in the slightest, and I think that I got immune to that because I have 5 siblings, and they'll do something or see something or read something, and then they would just tell me what happens, and I would just be like, oh, okay, um, it's whatever.
I don't really care
Um,
about spoilers myself, but like as far as like going to the movie theater, buying the tickets, like I just judge it by the trailer. I don't try to, form my thoughts about the movie
well, I don't.
by
I've
like,
stopped watching
listening to the
trailers.
reviews and stuff. So
I've stopped watching trailers, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the movies that I watched with my good friend, I watched Thor Ragnarok in the cinema because I love Thor. Thor is like one of
mm.
my favorite superheroes. Um, and I watched it in the cinema, and she had like an extra ticket for it. Like I wasn't intending to go. I was just gonna watch it online, when it came out online. Um, and she had an extra ticket, and she was like, "Do you want to come and see this? Like I know you like Thor." So we went and saw it, and I was so shocked that the Hulk was in it. And she was like, "Did you not watch the trailer?" And I was like, "No." I didn't because it had just gone past me for some reason. And I was like, I'm never gonna watch a trailer again. They featured the Hulk in the trailer, and she was like, yeah, everyone knew the Hulk was gonna be in the movie. I was like, why would you watch the trailer? That was such a fun surprise that the Hulk was just in this movie. Like I knew Jeff Goldblum was in it. That was one of the reasons I was gonna go watch it. But I didn't know that they were gonna throw the Hulk in. That's amazing. I'm never gonna watch a trailer again. They spoiled that for people. Like I loved it.
Let's see. In my experience, the shorter the movie, the better the movie will be. That's true. That is true.
I think it depends. Like the Joker, the runtime was about 2 hours, and I thought that that was too long. I was like, they're gonna throw some filler shit in there, but they didn't. I thought it was great. I thought that was the thing that I went away with. Like they put thought in every second of that movie. Everything that was done, the way that it was edited, every single thing that they thought it through. I did not see a single shot that was wasted in that movie.
I gotta agree. Like, there's like no moments in the movie that I just thought, "Hey, this is just there, just to be there." It's like everything in the movie actually had a
Yeah.
purpose,
Yeah, and even like the quiet moments where he's just like lying in bed or he's watching TV, there's so many
or
things
just
going on in the
making the
background.
face to the kid like that.
Yeah, like
That
there's so
was
many things going on in the background. Like there's newspaper titles that you can read so you can understand what's going on outside. There's like cigarettes on the table. You can like and one of the things about mental health is that it's not just the person, like his surrounding is very much a tell of what someone's mental state is like. So when you see him in these quiet moments where he's like just doing something, and then his whole house is like decrepit, it's a mess, it's grungy, you can tell by the frame of that like where he is mentally. Like that scene where he's like taking all the shit out of his fridge so he can just sit in it. Like that was just like it like if you put that in a meme and you just spread that across the internet, it would be hysterical. But like in the context of that movie, it was such a heartbreaking scene where he just wants to stop existing. And that's something that he mentioned before, and that like resonated a lot with me. I
Do you
was
have a
like, oh,
favorite?
he's
Do you have
just
a
like,
favorite? Do you have a favorite scene in a movie from what you saw so far?
I think my favorite scene in the movie would probably be that scene where he's like getting ready to go to the show, where he's like dyeing his hair and he's like putting his makeup on, and then his like ex coworkers come in and he kills that fucking guy. Like that was my favorite scene simply because like first of all when he was like dyeing his hair and he was doing his makeup, that is so me. Like that is me. It is the music, the dancing, like the carelessness. Like I'd have paint on the next day on my hands. Like that is so me. I was like, I can fully relate to this. This is all me. And then like when he picks up the scissors and puts it in his back pocket, I'm just like the whole time I'm like, oh, some shit's about to go down. Like, he opens the door and he sees the guy who's got like dwarfism, and he's just like, you can leave. Like I don't care about you. And he can't reach the lock. And it's just like, oh my god. It was the
That's like
best
my
scene.
that's my favorite scene in the movie. It was that scene with the dwarf, and then it was also that scene where he was just like he was in the hospital, right? He was like talking, like doing the stuff with the kids, and then the gun just came down. That was like so funny. Like there's like so many moments of
And he
dark
like tries to
humor.
kick it away as if nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Or that scene where he's like messing around with the gun and he shoots the wall and he like falls over the table.
It's like so many great scenes of like dark humor in that movie.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised because the director, I believe, he was actually behind a Hangover series, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't watched those movies.
Oh my goodness, you missed so much, man, so
I've
much.
missed so much. I've missed so much. There was this one like period. People have like given me lists of movies to watch, but obviously I don't go off lists. Normally, what I do is that I just get into one genre and then I watch all the movies in that genre. Um, well, when I first left my house, I only watched war films. Like I only watched like so I went from Gladiator. I did Braveheart. Braveheart was one of my favorite movie for such a long time before I realized it's too fucking long. Um,
Freedom!
I
Just
love
yeah.
that movie. I need to watch that movie again. But like I watched Gladiator, I watched Kingdom of Heaven, I watched all the like I found a list on Wikipedia and I just went through the list. Like I watched like Native American movies, I watched like the Chinese war movies. I watched a bunch of movies in like other languages. I just wanted this one genre. I just wanted to consume it and that's what I did. That's all. Like I just watched all those movies. And then I went through a period. I got like fucked over by this one guy I was dating, and he had given me his Netflix password. And I knew like the genre of movies that he liked, so I just decided to watch like a bunch of romantic comedies and fuck up his recommendations. So I watched like all the romantic comedies that I could possibly, and I don't like romantic comedies. I literally just had them playing in the background of while I was working. So I wasn't paying attention to them, but I like they're easy movies to understand. They're not complicated. So I saw the movie, like I got it. And then
Yeah,
I
that's
did like
probably that's like
superheroes.
my least favorite films because it's just like, very
It's
I don't know,
brainless.
corny and cheesy and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's completely brainless. But I did it purely for revenge. And like I fully fucked up his recommendations. Like he used to watch anime and like really hardcore stuff, and it was all girly stuff. It was amazing. It's the best. Anyone who wants to steal the idea, please feel free. It's the best revenge that you can do. Um, and no one gets hurt. Just Netflix. Um, but yeah, I did romantic comedies. I did superhero movies, except for DC. I feel like I watched Wonder Woman, and I thought that was okay for a DC. Like for DC, it was magnanimous. Like that was an amazing movie for DC because they have such a poor track record. But Wonder Woman, I watched that one, and I watched Joker, and I think I should probably get into the Dark Knight trilogy if it is considered to be like good in that strain of movie.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it's like I saw it back in 2008 and it was like really good. Now I'm not saying
well,
not saying that because I'm like a fan or nothing. It's just like when I watch it as a movie by itself, it's just was
yeah.
fantastic. Like the performance that was done by Heath Ledger just stole the movies for me.
Well, I've seen that's the thing. I saw clips of Heath Ledger because I like Heath Ledger, and I also like Christian Bale. But for some reason, it's just been in my brain because I watched all those superhero movies. I'm like superheroed out. I can't do any more of them. But I'm probably gonna get into them simply because my friend's been begging me to watch them for such a long time, and because they're considered to be good movies. Um,
As far
I
as
watched
as far as the news of the Joker movie has been concerned, like has any of our controversy here traveled to United Kingdom as far as you know?
what controversy would that be?
Oh my goodness, it was like so much. I don't know where to begin. Like first
Is
of
this
all,
racist?
what happened? Like basically, there were like a lot of critics who were claiming that the Joker would inspire real life violence. It's kind of like the video game argument, but with movies. And,
No, no, it
oh
won't.
my
I mean, we already had killer clowns here in the UK.
goodness.
I don't know if you had them in the US, but we had killer clowns here in the UK a few years ago.
Really?
Like actual killer clowns. Yeah, it was like a viral fad that happened here. Um, so I don't think, look, people are gonna kill people. Like, I think we need to move on from that fact. People are going to, they don't need to be influenced. They don't need to be influenced. If they have that inclination in their brain, they're gonna do it anyway. They don't need, like, yeah, they might get ideas. I'm not saying they won't get ideas, but if someone wants to kill someone, you can't pin it on a movie or a video game. Like, Deadpool came out. He's a fucking murderer. Like, you're gonna, and that movie is hysterical, by the way. That was like one of my favorite. I watched that in the cinema like 2 or 3 times. I loved that movie, and I watched the second one 2 or 3 times in the cinema. Like, you could say that about anything. You could say that about history. Like, don't learn about Hitler. We're just gonna make more Hitlers. Like, no. Hitler only comes around once every few millennia, okay? And he's gonna be Hitler whether or not you like it. Okay? It doesn't matter what you teach the guy. Hitler was a fucking painter, for God's sake.
He was also vegetarian. So
And he was a vegetarian. He was a painter. He wanted to be an architect. He got fucked over and he became a dictator. I'm not making any excuses for him. He's a terrible human being. But my point is that guy became a dictator and like a genocide person simply because he was like that. You know, that was his thing. It was I don't know. But
well,
that controversy.
besides the whole controversy about it inspiring violence, there was also controversy at the movie theater. Like basically, the local chain that was called AMC. What happened
Right.
was that they told people that they cannot dress up as the Joker because of the whole entire controversy about the violence stuff. It was ridiculous. There was also like some sort of controversy.
That's like a thing though that people do. They like I don't do it because I have Comic Con to let
Right.
out my crazy at. Okay, so but like, there are people who like go to Marvel movies with their Marvel shirts on and dress up as different characters. You know that Marvel characters also kill people.
Right.
I mean,
And it was like so bad. Like even like the freaking police went outside their movie theaters in like New York because of they heard like the news about the controversy. There was also like the freaking FBI like spying on people talking about the Joker on Twitter. It was so crazy. It's so
that
crazy.
okay. Okay,
It
first
was
of
like,
all, I don't think things are that bad here, like as they were in Gotham City. Like, okay,
right.
the stuff that guy said on TV, like who wrote that speech for him? Who thought that through and was like, yeah, let's call everybody a clown and see if we can get away with it. Like that was the only thing that I was like, no politician would ever dare to say that. No politician would ever come out and say that. They would feel sorry for the killer and they would say that guy needs to be hunted down. That is what a politician would do. Who wrote Mr. Wayne's speech? Please stand up because we need to put that man in prison. Like he needs to be fired and shamed for life. Who wrote that speech?
Oh my goodness.
But
Just.
I saw that, and I was like, if a British politician said that today, everything would be burning. Everything would be burning because that was such a dumb thing to say. Like, even if you were thinking it, even if that was your like honesty, that was your truth, why did you say it?
Oh my goodness.
Like, I don't want to justify any fictional kind of violence, but that boy had it coming, okay? Like, that man fully had it coming. Like, where do you get off telling everyone that they're a clown?
Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh my goodness. As far as like bad moments in the movies, do you think there has been any sort of bad moments at all?
That was the only bad moment. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not realistic. A politician would
Okay,
never
that's the
kill.
only bad. Any more?
That was I mean in terms of I didn't really understand. There was one part in the movie where he like gets into the charity thing, like the charity event where they're like watching comedy in the theater, and he just like gets in without any struggle. Like I was thinking like is this a delusion sequence? They like kind of jump like from and I mean I don't have too much of a problem with it because it gets the point across. I feel like it would be wasting time to go through like all the Mission Impossible shit he would have had to do to get into the place. But like it was the only like in terms of like continuity, I was like, okay, so he got to the door, he obviously needed to like break the lock or something to get in. Then he had like a costume, like where did he find that? And he just had like a hoodie underneath. Like, how did you fit all of that? Like it just made very little sense. That was the only part that I was like, okay, that makes no sense. I don't know how that happened, but I'm like, I'm here for this conversation where he has it with like, what was
As
his
far
name?
as like the
Thomas
negative,
Wayne.
like as far as the negatives for me, I think like some of the negatives that I saw was like the fact that the Joker managed to kill like all these people, but had no sort of person actually find him at all. That didn't seem really realistic to me.
Yeah, that didn't feel realistic either. But then I feel like the lazy way of like saying like dismissing it would be, oh, he's delusional, so that in his brain that's how that happened. So I feel like that could be written off very easily. Those detectives were completely useless. Like, where does Gotham hire their people? Like, where do they find these like the clowns? I'm sorry, like they're such incompetent people, incompetent politicians, incompetent police officers, incompetent mothers. Like everyone is incompetent in this world, and I feel like that was the point. Like the social workers were incompetent. Everyone's incompetent. The people who were doing the admin, like why didn't that guy just say you're adopted? Why was he like, oh no, she's your mother? Like why would he say that? And how did he know that this was the woman's son? Like it just felt very like delusion. This is all a
I think the
delusion.
whole entire movie might be a delusion, really. It could just
Yeah,
be like a whole entire delusion, this movie. Like
yeah,
it's
it
like
could
after
be.
you saw that scene when like it was actually delusion for like the girlfriend, like you kind of wonder just how much is the movie delusional? Like
Yeah,
how much is it in his head, you know?
yeah. And I was also like the ending scene where he's like with the psychiatrist and then he walks out of the room with like blood footprints. I was like, did he kill her? Like what? How did that happen? Like there
It's
was a
like
lot
one
of
of
like
those. It's like one of those movies that you have to watch again and again and again to watch like the small
yeah,
details.
I want to watch it again in the movie theater because I know there's friends who haven't watched it, and I'm like, if you do not watch this movie in the cinema, you will regret it. I would have regretted it if I didn't see it in the cinema. Um, and I had told my friend that I feel like if I don't see this in the cinema, I'm either going to regret it or I'm going to have a good story, and I'm just going to be like, that movie was terrible. I don't know why everyone was talking about that movie, but that movie was awful. But yeah, I was like, I need to. It was the same for when Into the Spider-Verse came out. And I was like, that's a cartoon movie. And everyone was like, no, you have to go and see it in the cinema. It's so visually stunning. And I went there and I was like, fuck, I would have regretted it if I didn't go and see it in the cinema. Because
Yeah,
it's so
I
visually
saw
stunning.
the Spider Verse like on my birthday, and it was actually I did not have much expectations watching it because I thought it was
No,
just going to
neither
be
did I.
bad, but it was actually good.
It was amazing. I feel like that was
Yeah.
the best movie that came out that year.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I loved that movie. I watched it once in the cinema, but I watched it a few times since, and it like really holds its weight. Like I love it. The soundtrack was brilliant. The visuals were like it was so stimulating, like the colors and the way that they use the effects to do that. And I forgot how much I liked cartoons in that way because they're much more malleable than live action things. And then the characters and the dynamics between the characters, the level of emotion and thought that was put into the movie, and the fact that they kill like that world's Peter Parker within like the first 20 minutes, and I'm just sitting there crying because I love Peter Parker. He's one of my favorite characters in a fictional universe, and I'm like, well, how could they do this to me twice in the same year? Because they did it with Infinity War as well.
As
It
far
was
as like how you would rate the movie out of 5, what would you get it?
the Joker
Yeah, the Joker.
or the Joker. I would say it was probably a 5 out of 5. Like I loved that movie. It was
Okay.
amazing. I need to see it again. I need to see it again. I know if I see it again, I'll see things that I didn't see there the first time. But I like off the bat, for having seen it today, like earlier today, I would say it was a 5 out of 5 movie. That was a good
I would
movie, and if
probably
you
give
get
it
to
like a
see it,
4 out of 5.
you would give
It's
it
really
4.
good though.
Yeah, but why would you give it a 4 as opposed to a 5?
I don't think no movie is perfect, so that's why.
Okay, see, like I don't like that grading system. If you have something out of 5, something has to achieve a 5. Like Gladiator for me is a 5 out of 5 movie. Jurassic Park is a 5 out of 5 movie. Jumanji, the original Jumanji, 5 out of 5 movie. Something has to hit 5. Logan, which is a more recent movie than all of the ones I just said. Logan, 5 out of 5 movie. The
Okay, I would
second
agree with
Terminator,
I would agree with that. Sure, 5 out of 5 Logan.
the second Terminator movie, 5 out of 5 movie. Okay, like something has to hit 5, otherwise your grading system is rubbish. Like you need to get that 5 somewhere.
Okay, all right. I'll keep that in mind. All right. So this is Faye the Most Gracious. Before we sign out, what's your social media accounts?
So my YouTube account is Faye the Most Gracious. You can find me on YouTube. I mainly use Twitter, and my handle on Twitter is @AngusSpreadThin. And I have the same handles on Instagram, and that's more or less what I use. So if you want to follow me, you can, but I'm very opinionated on not just movies, but on everything. So I'm a lot sometimes online.
Yeah, and also I guess I could probably plug in my stuff too. I have of course like Facebook, Twitter, Minds.com, just anywhere. At
Yeah.
Tyler Preston 20, I of course talk about the movies, I talk about current events and whatever is on my mind.
Yeah.
So you can find
Did
me
you want to
there.
go over like the social political stuff that was in that movie, or like do you not want to touch it at all?
I don't want to touch it right now. It's just
Okay.
oh my goodness. I just no more politics right now. At least not for
I
this
loved
week.
that stuff though. Like I loved that they involved all of that stuff. I thought it was really, really, it was really good to add all of that stuff in the background.
Right. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
See.